What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. And actually today, it's going to be double content today. I'm uploading this at 3 p.m., but, at my normal upload time, which is 5 p.m., I have the third segment of the Trust the Bank podcast. And we're going to be talking a lot about the safety position and, looking at drafting them or signing them in free agency should they be done. So, that definitely plays a factor into what happens today. So I'm not going to give a ton of explanations on, secondary pieces because, I'm going to be talking about that a lot in the later video today. So if it comes up, make sure to stay tuned and, watch that video. But if you want to subscribe to see that daily Ravens content, make sure to do so. But getting into this, it's Mock Draft Monday. And basically what I do every Monday is a no trade mock draft based on where the Ravens are at right now with what I think that the Ravens should be doing, leading towards the draft. And like I said, no trades, but let's get right into it. At pick 27, I went with Kwity Paye. I did not expect him to be available whatsoever. Rousseau was gone. Bateman was gone. Terrence Marshall was gone. But honestly, if all of these players were available, I would still take Kwity Paye. One, the Ravens got to draft their Michigan guys. They got their quota that they have to hit because of Jim Harbaugh being in Michigan. But just an excellent prospect. He doesn't have like the upside of a Gregory Rousseau, but his floor is a lot higher. He's just a strong pass rusher that's very quick, and the Ravens would be able to definitely get him to use because as of right now, like I've brought up many times before, the Ravens don't have an edge rusher, so that has to be a priority. And when I'm recording this, they haven't signed an edge rusher or anything like that. So going edge rusher in the first round is definitely a major need for this Ravens team, which is why I went with Kwity Paye out of Michigan as the edge rusher in the first round. With the 58th pick in the draft, I went with Landon Dickerson. Now, Landon Dickerson is somebody who the Ravens are in desperate need of because, one, he's a center. Two, he's played all over the offensive line. That's very important for the Ravens because they need depth at the offensive line spot, but then they also need a starting caliber center. They brought in a right guard this offseason in Zeitler. Obviously, they have Ronnie Stanley. But other than that, we don't really know what's going on with the offensive line. Orlando Brown Jr., he could play right tackle this year for us, or he could be traded. Possibly we need a right tackle. The center position, we have some younger guys. We could shift Bozeman to center, but I think if we drafted Landon Dickerson, we could shift Bozeman to left guard, Zeitler at right guard, then have a good quality center in the middle. And then all we would just have the question mark at would be at the right tackle position. But if Orlando Brown plays, that is a very, very good offensive line, which is something that the Ravens desperately need to have if they want to have good pass protection for Lamar Jackson and have good run blocking for, Lamar Jackson again, but also J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. So I really think addressing the offensive line is a major need in this draft. I think a lot of Ravens fans may be upset that it's like, it's kind of boring for these first two picks. But don't worry. With the third pick, I went extra boring, and I picked Spencer Brown, an offensive tackle out of Northern Iowa. Don't worry. After this, it gets much more interesting. But, in my personal opinion, the Ravens should trade Orlando Brown Jr. I've done a ton of things about what they should do. I think they should trade him for a wide receiver. Whether that's Devontae Parker, whether that's Mike Williams, whether that's even an Allen Robinson or Michael Gallup, those type of guys. I think trading for a wide receiver is just very, very smart. But also, if they drafted Spencer Brown, who is a right tackle, who is 6'8.5", over 300 pounds, he would be able to come in and he'd be able to play right tackle for the Ravens. And that's something that they could do. And they may end up, waiting. Hey, maybe they trade Orlando Brown at the trade deadline. I think a lot of Ravens fans are underestimating that possibility. So, just imagine this situation. Okay, so the Ravens draft Spencer Brown, a right tackle. He sits behind Orlando Brown for about 5 weeks, and then they trade him mid-season because they realize, hey, Spencer Brown is ready to take that role. He's got similar size to Orlando Brown Jr., so we'd definitely be able to learn from him at the right tackle position. So then they trade him, get a good wide receiver to come into the Ravens. Now, obviously, I'd rather the trade happen earlier because, getting that chemistry with Lamar. But then you have a good right tackle because, remember, Orlando Brown didn't start right away on the right side. He took a couple of weeks, I can't remember the exact amount, before he started starting. Well, do that with Spencer Brown, and look at that, boom. You're all set. The entire offensive line is set. And that would be very beneficial for the Ravens to have, because then they'd be able to have an offensive weapon that's established, and they'd have still a decent offensive line, and they wouldn't just be like risking it, hoping that, they get somebody. Because if they trade Orlando Brown before the trade deadline, like before the draft, they don't know if they're going to be able to get a replacement. Will the right guy fall to them? Whereas if they draft the guy, then wait and realize, okay, this guy is the guy that we want to move forward with, they could end up trading Orlando Brown. That's kind of my thought process on it. But next pick in the draft was pick 131, and I went with Charles Snowden, linebacker out of Virginia. I had this guy in my last mock draft. I absolutely love this prospect for the Ravens. Once again, he's about 6'6", maybe 6'7" on a good day, 6'6.5", and he's somebody who's a monster outside linebacker, good athleticism. He's got very good instincts, so he's able to drop into coverage and make some plays in coverage, but he also can rush the passer. He doesn't have crazy pass rush moves or anything like that, but he's got great size, and he's a playmaker. And the Ravens definitely need that outside linebacker with good length that is able to stop the run, because they lost Matthew Judon, who was a terrific run defender. He was very good at setting that edge and holding running backs from getting outside. If you watch the Titans playoff game, Judon played amazing that game in the way that he was able to contain Derrick Henry. Getting Snowden would put somebody on the outside with great size and an even better length to be able to, hold down those running backs trying to get to the outside, whether it's Nick Chubb, whether it's Derrick Henry. He'd be able to set that edge, and I think that would be very beneficial to this Ravens team, which is why I love Charles Snowden to the Ravens so much. With the next pick 171, I went with the guy. I think I've had him in every mock draft, honestly. Maybe I didn't have him in one, but it's Simi Fehoko. Okay. If you have not heard me talk about Simi Fehoko, I promise you this guy's the best deep threat in the draft. 6'4". I was expecting his 40-yard dash time to be around 4.48 to 4.52. He ran 4.37 at 6'4". He's got phenomenal ball skills. He's got obviously great size, but if you put it up in an area where, he has a chance to get it, more than likely he comes down with that football. And in the Stanford offense, they do throw a lot of jump balls. When they get to the red zone, they throw a lot of jump balls, and he was the guy making those catches. He's a lot better than a J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who went to the Eagles before DK Metcalf, because Arcega-Whiteside was literally just a jump ball wide receiver. He had no route running skills or whatever. Didn't have good speed at all. Simi Fehoko has incredible speed. He's able to get separation, beat guys off the line, and he's able to go down the field and make big plays. So I love Simi Fehoko. I don't think he'll ever turn into a wide receiver one, but I think it could be an excellent deep threat. Maybe a Torrey Smith 2.0 for the Ravens. I think could be a relative expectation for Simi Fehoko in Baltimore would be Torrey Smith. And if you look at what the Ravens need, a deep threat, they could definitely use a prime Torrey Smith right now. So I just love Simi Fehoko. I think he should absolutely come to the Ravens. Also, he liked my tweet when I said hashtag come to the Ravens. And then, maybe he'd be down to come to the Ravens after liking my tweet. But with that said, follow me on Twitter at TrizTheBank. But pick 184, I went with Shaka Toney, another edge rusher. This one's out of Penn State, just a very solid guy that could be just a designated pass rush specialist. You get into a situation where, it's 3rd and 10, it's a passing down, you put in Shaka Toney, and maybe this isn't his rookie year. Maybe this is in 3 years when he's more developed, but having a designated pass rush specialist is never a bad thing. And when you have Wink Martindale, where you could put him in and then also send a blitz, it's just such a valuable asset for so many teams. You look at what maybe like a D Ford has brought to the teams that he's been on, like that type of thing. He'd be able to come in and he'd be able to get some sacks for the Ravens in crucial situations, because right now they don't have an edge rusher that's even on the field in general. So at least having one where they could just sub in and have say, okay, this play, you got full energy, go after that quarterback. Shaka Toney could definitely be that guy. And, I think that would be a very good draft pick. Now, looking at the final pick in the draft, this one was an interesting one. I wanted to go wide receiver, so I was looking at the receivers available. A lot of guys that people comment all the time on the videos. I'm talking Tamarion Terry, TJ Vasher, Jonathan Adams Jr. And I was like, okay, which also the Illinois wide receiver, I'm going to butcher his name, but Imago Bebe or Imator Bebe or whatever it is, the guy with like a 47-inch vertical. They're all available. And I was like, okay, who do I want to pick? Who do I want to pick? And my favorite one out of those four guys is Jonathan Adams Jr. Now, TJ Vasher, 6'6", monster wide receiver, great length, great size. Tamarion Terry has a real chance of being an X wide receiver, 6'4", but he does have a drop problem. Was kind of the big negative I saw. Jonathan Adams Jr. is nasty. He is a physical specimen, and I get that he was playing in a smaller school at Arkansas State, but he is so good when the ball is in the air. He is physical. He will push the defender out of the way. He'll get off that line, and he'll make big-time plays in every single game that he's in. I'll say, you watch his highlight tape, it's better than James Prochet. And I know a lot of Ravens fans watch James Prochet highlights. Yeah, that's how good he is. So absolutely, if you don't know the name Jonathan Adams Jr., go check it out because he is just a phenomenal wide receiver. And he's also 6'3". He's got good size. So obviously, I want a lot of size in the wide receivers because we have a lot of smaller guys with Hollywood, Duvernay, Prochet, I think is 5'11". So getting those size, I drafted Simi Fehoko. We brought in Sammy Watkins, who does have good size, but that's only on a 1-year deal. So Jonathan Adams Jr. within the next couple of years could be a really, really good wide receiver taken, in the 6th round. So that's my favorite kind of late round pick would be Jonathan Adams Jr. at the wide receiver position. But I get it if, you like TJ Vasher to Marion Terry. Let me know down in the comment section down below what your thoughts are on my draft picks. But as always, I also want to hear, what your mock drafts are, what players you like, what players you had falling, what players, you don't want to draft. Let me know down in the comment section down below. Subscribe for daily Ravens content. And as always, like the video if you like the video. But thank you, everybody, for watching. Double upload day. So, make sure to come back at 5 p.m. to see Joshua and I talk about the safety position because obviously I didn't draft a safety. So you'll hear the explanation of why in that video. So thank you, everybody, for watching. See you again next time.